Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to dive into a pretty small book that holds a massive idea, James Allen's timeless classic, As a Man Thinketh. Now, this was published over a century ago, but its core message that our thoughts literally shape our reality is maybe more relevant now than ever. Let's dig in and see what that's all about. So let me ask you something right off the bat, and it's really the main idea for our entire discussion today. Is your mind a garden? And if it is, what have you been planting in there? Have you been carefully tending to it, or have you kind of just let it grow wild? Just hold that thought in your mind as we go through this. Okay, so this right here, this is the core idea of the whole book. It's this powerful line that basically says we are, quite literally, the product of our thoughts. And it's not just about the thoughts floating on the surface, but the ones we hold deep down, in our heart. Alan says this one single principle runs our entire life. All right, let's make this official. Let's really lean into this guiding metaphor. Just imagine your mind as a plot of land, and you're the master gardener. You've got a choice. You can either cultivate it with care, or you can just let it get overrun. So here's how this whole metaphor works. A garden is never really empty, right? It's always producing something. If you don't intentionally plant useful seeds, what Alan calls pure thoughts, then all sorts of useless weed seeds are just going to blow in, take root, and completely take over. Your mind is never just sitting there. It's always working, always growing something. And this is what it boils down to, right? Two very different outcomes. On one side, you've got the cultivated mind, where intentional, good thoughts lead to a life that's beautiful and joyful. And on the other, you have the neglected mind, where all those stray, negative thoughts are left to fester, leading to a tangled mess of a life full of suffering. I mean, the way Alan lays it out, the stakes couldn't be any higher. Okay, so if our mind is a garden, what's the very first thing that pops up? Well, according to Alan, it's our character. And believe it or not, it all starts with something tiny, just a single thought. Now, this is a really big idea. Think about it. Your character isn't some fixed thing you're just stuck with. It's the living, breathing result of every single thought you've ever decided to water and let grow. It's just like a plant growing from a seed. Every action you take, whether you think about it or not, started as a tiny little thought in your mind. And this is where that huge sense of personal responsibility really kicks in. This quote is basically saying that we're the ones holding the tools. Our thoughts can build us up, create this noble, strong character, or they can tear it all down. We're the ones in the driver's seat, either building our future or, well, wrecking it. All right, let's take this a step further. If thoughts build who we are on the inside, what do they do to the world outside of our heads? Alan says they're directly connected. We're basically going from the soil inside our minds to the actual harvest we get in our real lives. Right, so here's the key takeaway. Our outer world is just a mirror reflecting what's going on inside. It's not about getting what you want, it's about attracting what you are. If your mind is mostly filled with positive, strong thoughts, you'll naturally create situations that match that. But if it's full of negativity and fear, well, your life circumstances will start to look a lot like that too. So you might be wondering, how does this actually work in practice? Well, this breaks it down pretty clearly. It all starts with a single thought that you just keep thinking over and over. That thought then gets stronger and turns into a habit, an action you do automatically. And before you know it, that habit becomes a real, solid part of your life, a circumstance. Now, this idea really pushes back against being a victim of circumstance, doesn't it? And Alan is really absolute on this point. He says that things like hardship or suffering aren't just bad luck. Instead, they're just the weeds that have grown because we let certain negative thoughts take root and grow wild in our garden. And the power of our thoughts doesn't stop with our character or our circumstances. Alan takes it even further, into two other massive areas of our lives, our physical health and our sense of purpose. Let's see how the roots of what we think feed into these parts of our lives. Okay, so Alan draws a straight line from our thoughts right to our physical health. The idea here is that your body basically does what your mind tells it to. So thoughts of fear, anxiety, and ill will can actually break your body down. But thoughts that are pure, cheerful, and strong, they're like a shot of medicine, building you up with energy and life. And what's really important here is the order of operations. Thought comes first. You can try to change your diet or start exercising, but Alan would argue that if your mind is still a mess, those changes are never going to stick. True health starts with cleaning up your thoughts, and then healthy habits just naturally follow. So moving beyond just health, Alan really hammers home the need for a purpose. Without a clear goal, your mind, your garden, has no structure. your thoughts just drift all over the place, kind of like vines without anything to climb on. And that aimlessness, it's the perfect breeding ground for worry, fear, and self-pity, which he saw as signs of real weakness. And here's the payoff when you do have that purpose. A clear goal is like a North Star for your thoughts, pulling them all in one powerful direction. When you're that focused, you basically starve doubt and fear of all the oxygen they need to breathe. And once you've beaten those inner enemies, outer failure doesn't have the same hold on you. So we've walked through this incredible power of thought that James Allen talks about. It's an incredibly empowering and very responsible way to see the world. But like with any big idea, it's a good idea to step back and look at it from all sides. So let's just pause for a second. James Allen's principle is crystal clear, right? You are the master of your thoughts. And because of that, you are the one shaping your destiny. It's an incredibly empowering idea. But is that the whole story? Is it really that simple? You know, while that idea of creating your own reality is super inspiring, a more modern look at it might say it oversimplifies things. We can't just ignore powerful outside forces. You know, the actual soil and climate of our garden, if we're sticking with the metaphor. Things like your socioeconomic status, the environment you grew up in, and your social connections. These are also incredibly powerful forces that shape our lives. So, how do we square this? How do we put these two ideas together? And this is where that garden metaphor is just perfect. You might not control the weather, the economy, let's say. You might not have been given the best soil, your starting point in life. But here's the thing. You always control what you decide to plant in that garden. And you always control how much care you give it. And that right there brings us to the big takeaway. Just because we admit there are outside challenges doesn't mean our internal power disappears. This final quote reminds us that deep inside, we have a will, a conscious power to choose our thoughts and aim our efforts. And that's the power that lets us tackle obstacles, the ones inside our head and the ones out in the world, and ultimately shape our own destiny. And so, here we are, right back where we started, with you, the master gardener, standing in front of your own mind. The past is over. The world outside is what it is. The only real question left, the one that really matters, is this one. Looking forward, what are you going to plant today?